Welcome to Drinks Coach Shorts on Instagram and probably being put on YouTube as well because I'm lazy like that. Oh, my hair doesn't too great this morning. This is my last message from outer space from Heja in Sverige. Last couple of days visiting my mum in Sweden. We've still got the Swedish flag going. Still a lovely bucolic Swedish scene with the garage in the background. Believe it or not, in there's a sauna and a three-phase kitchen with all the whistles and bells. Sadly not been used since Dad passed away, but I do try and make 50-litre vats of chicken vindaloo when I'm here, so Mum's sorted for the whole duration of winter. So, wines. So this is going to be kind of, I don't know if this is going to be shorter than the others, but this is Instagram short, and we're talking today about a region which is small, perfectly formed. There's some beautiful producers down there. I speak of Chateau La Canorgue, Valjoigny, but the one we're talking about today is Mas des Infirmières, or a hospital for the invalids, I guess. And it's owned by Ridley Scott. Yes, the very famous director and hero of mine. This is the region of Côte de Luberon. So, if I give you a quick geography lesson, here's the Rhône, okay, that's Avignon right there. And here's Marseille on the coast, that's the bottom of France. So if you go in, so that's going east of the Rhône, you get to Côte de Ventoux, right? And that's where there are some very high altitude, beautiful wines. Chateau Pesquet, shout out to you, just won a national Legion d'Honneur type award this week, so that's wonderful. But if you go south, so the gap between Ventoux and the Provence, right in Provence, is a double valley called Côte de Luberon, which has fewer producers. It isn't a giant producer of wine, but actually, pound for pound, has some extremely notable and very high quality Provençal producers, making, in the main, very, very sexy rosé, as the whole region does. And I think makes surprisingly good white wine, although the region makes these delicious, quite dramatic, spicy, garriguey, herby Provençal reds. And I think I've said this on the channel before, but if I haven't, Provence is known for rosé and a bit of white wine, but it's not really given the credit where credit's due for red, but they make very, very nice red wines there. And here we have two wines from an estate which Ridley Scott bought in 1992. I don't know what that means in terms of filmography, what he'd filmed by then. Had American Gangster been filmed by then? I don't know, but if I think about all of my favourite films, Alien, Blade Runner, American Gangster, I mean, these are all Ridley Scott movies. He features very highly in my top 20. Maybe my favourite film by Ridley Scott is Blade Runner still. But it's not top. Top is In Bruges. That's my favourite film. No, it's not. It's Withnell and I. Those are the top two. Then Ridley Scott probably comes third. Anyway, I'm not here to film bash Ridley Scott. I think he doesn't really care what I think about his films. I think it's very important that we remind ourselves that he's not a young spring chicken anymore. I think he's 87. Yeah, he's... it's amazing that he's still directing, right? So he's 87 and he's just brought out Gladiator 2, which is why we're here, because these wines were launched from his estate in time with and because of Gladiator 2. And I looked up, I was Googling this morning to try and get a bit more information about Ridley Scott to find out what his highest grossing film was. And it came up this morning that Gladiator 2 already is Ridley Scott's highest ever grossing film. It's certainly the highest ever grossing Denzel Washington movie, and that takes some beating if you think about the films like Training Day and stuff like that, and American Gangster. And here we are with a couple of wines from the Mas des Infirmières estate, which, as mentioned, Ridley bought in 1992. He didn't sell a commercial wine until 2009. So I'm curious to know what happened to that estate over the 17 years, whether he built it from the ground up again. But I think it's important to talk about what you expect from the Luberon, and from the lovely people. Hi guys, thank you very much for sending me these bottles in good faith, because I said I'd taste these wines completely unseen, which I'm doing now. I haven't tasted the wines yet, and I'd be as honest as I possibly could. And I did say that if I hated the wines, that I wouldn't mention them. That's kind of a lie, but I'd be really surprised if I do. I think it's already +5 because it's Ridley Scott's estate. So, guys, there it is. But I did want to taste these wines to see whether, at the sort of prices you expect to pay for these wines, whether this is indeed merch for a movie and Ridley Scott finally succumbing and profiteering from his fans, or whether in fact these wines are actually worth the face value. I don't think you can rule out the fact that it's got famous ownership. I mean, the same way that Brangelina's rosés and Kylie's stuff, those wines all you can whack an extra couple of quid on because of their association. I think that's the point, isn't it? But here we've got 2 wines from this region. Great variety-wise because it's actually Provençal rather than Rhone. I never really thought about that. I never always thought about it as being Rhone because of the Ventoux thing, but it's actually Rhone Alp. It's quite high altitude, so you have these wonderful acidities for the whites, but they have lovely warm days for the reds. We'll do white first. This is made from Roller, which is French for Vermentino. And Roll, if you're familiar with the variety, is more familiar to those people that drink Bandol White. Wonderful, robust, full-body Provençal, almost resinous Provençal white wine that goes terrifically well with bouillabaisse and all those famous oily, fishy stews that they have down there. Also, another wine that's not inconsiderable in price, but also rather delicious, is Cassis Blanc. Yes, it sounds like it means creme de black currant. It's spelled the same way, Cassis, but Cassis Blanc is also largely made, as I understand it, from Roll. So this is Roll. Then the next variety, one of my all-time favourite varieties, and I think, for people that are into wine, sort of like MW students upwards, we all kind of succumb to the come hitherness of this particular variety because it doesn't shout, but it has wonderful, delicate mouthfeel, and that's the variety of Clairette. Clairette is a great variety which has I suppose a scent that reminds you a little bit of oranges, orange groves. It doesn't shout loudly, but it has a faint sort of orchard fruit smell. But it has this almost fluffy softness. It creates this incredible shape in the mouth, and it's delicious. Probably the most famous 100% Clairette I can think of is the white wine of Chateau Simone from another tiny appellation in the region called Palette. So this is Roll Vermentino. Vermentino can be really kind of base quality. Vermentino's one of those varieties that can both be incredibly neutral and uninteresting, or there are certain clones which have evolved in the climates they're in to produce very concentrated and delicious wines. Well, it's rare to find Roll that's cheap in this region, so let's presume it's a premium clone of Vermentino. So Roll, Clairette, and the other variety here is the queen, I think, of varieties in the Rhone, which is Roussanne. We hear a lot more about Marsanne, I think, largely because there's so much very high quality, inexpensive Marsanne produced in Australia, in places like Chateau de Bilk and Mitchelton, Jones's winery, but basically in the north of Victoria. If you're not familiar with those wines, then you're not familiar with those wines, but Waitrose sold them for years. But Marsanne is the brother / sister, let's try not to be too genderist about it, grape with Roussanne. I think Roussanne always wins on the finesse stakes. And when you look at the most expensive white Hermitage and posh white wines of the Rhone, then Roussanne tends to be the one that is used more, I think. What is Roussanne? Roussanne is a wine, again, which has broad texture, has lots of richness, but has, I think, what Hugh Johnson in his first Wine Companion back in 1979 described as cut. It's a wine that's big. You can have large alcohols, but the wine still has this lovely fresh acidity. He described it, I think, as Bordeaux cut. The white Bordeaux's can be quite broad as well, can't they? But they have this lovely limey acidity which kind of freshens everything up and keeps things in check. Well, this is only 13% alcohol. Congratulations, Ridley Scott, or Ridley Scott's very trustworthy, I understand, winemaker, because 13% isn't too high. I think at 14.5%, that's not uncommon in this area, and those wines can be a bit blousy. 13% means the wine is a little bit more tailored, shall we say, slightly less hot, which is quite exciting. I'm also drinking this outside. It's about 4 degrees outside, but I did not chill this beforehand because I would taste these wines warm if I was tasting them at home. What I did want to notice is that these wines are not inexpensive, but the white wine was closed with Noma cork. This is not what I would consider a premium synthetic closure. I'm not sure how long the wine is designed to keep in this bottle. This is 2023. 2023 is sort of implies to me that this is a wine that should be drunk relatively young, and I'm afraid I have no history of drinking older Luberon wines except for a few Valjoigny whites I tasted, which are a bit older. And is Fonsalette in Luberon? I think it is. Very, very fancy producer. Their wines are kind of next level, different story. Anyway, Noma cork, plastic cork, at €21 a bottle. A bit disappointed. £21 in the UK, no less. A little bit disappointed with that. This is a real cork in the red wine, which is 14% alcohol, and going on to the red wine is made from Syrah and Grenache. We all know about that, don't we, folks? Syrah, Shiraz. If you're in Provence, I think it's a cross between Syrah and Shiraz, let's say, in spirit. So it's going to be quite brambly, dried herbs, kind of like almost like dried thyme, fruit flavours, delicious. And Grenache, which is spicy. We'll expect, if there's a nice temperature change in the day, you would like to see quite a lot of those peppery chemicals you get in there, sort of like white, black pepper. And it's 2021, which was a fantastic vintage in the region. I mean, really, really fantastic, and I'm a big fan. In fact, they've had very few bad vintages recently, but 21, quite gutsy, but real long-lived, I think, red wine vintage, and 2022, also stunning, but with more finesse, I would say. So, where should we go? We'll start with this. I'm using stemless glassware. These are glasses I actually designed for Dartington Crystal many, many years ago, about 20 years ago. 15, 20 years ago, I can't remember how long it is now. But this is when I got a bit of celebrity status. I was on BBC and I was writing for the Sunday Express. Not proud, but it's a national column, right? I produced these glasses for Dartington, and they're stemless. The whole point was that we realised that fine glassware, particularly in restaurants, would break at the stem, even though a Dartington, rather than Riedel, blows its entire glass from one ball of glass. It doesn't glue a stem on, but it's in fact formed from the same glass rather beautifully and rather artisanally. We decided that they'd be quite exciting to bring out a range, because it was all the fashion at the time, which did not have stems. What the big invention, really, the big sort of patent, I suppose, of the Dartington Crystal range. And by the way, you can go online, go on Google, go to Dartington, and you can order from wherever. I think even from Majestic, I think they're selling them. But they sell 2 stemless wine tasting glasses, which are in this style, what used to be called the O range. And it has a tastavin in the bottom. It has this. We've blown a punt into the glass. So when you put the glass on the table, the light reflects through it. Even though there is no stem, you can still see the colour of the wine. I thought that was rather clever. Don't you? I think it is. This is actually, if I remember, the Syrah Zinfandel glass, but I like drinking the white wines out of it because it's very good for white wines, particularly unoaked whites. And this is the Grand Cru fine red glass. So this was designed to drink really nice Bordeaux out of. You'll see that the lip right at the end tails out slightly, which takes away that kind of febrile, slightly nervous acidity of delicate old wines and makes the wine feel more complete. These weren't just made up on a piece of paper. Hundreds of hours went into this, and Harry, who's the head designer at Dartington, was heavily involved in helping with this, and congratulations on the amount of brilliant work that she did. And I think that Dartington Crystal has been through many, many different ownerships, been through different buyouts. I don't know where they're at now, but they're still there, which I'm very proud of, and they're still making beautiful, high-quality glass. Believe it or not, it all started off as a bunch of Swedes. Yes, we're in Sweden here, and down here there's a very famous glass factory now owned by Pilkington, and people learned how to make very high quality lead crystal here, and they were sent down to the West Country as an attempt to produce a model village, a craft village that people would come and visit for tourism, and those Swedish families are still there. Fact. Okay, there we go. Right. Masque des Infirmières white wine, 2023, 13% alcohol, Appellation Luberon d'origine contrôlée, and it's made from Roll, Clairette, Roussin. Let's have a look at it. Well, the nose is, I don't know if many people can say this, wonderfully familiar. Mum, who's indoors at the moment, just resting in bed, she used to buy a lot of wine from a very great estate importer called Yap Brothers, who are still down in Wiltshire, and La Canorgue and some of the other white wines from the south of France. They were brilliant at buying these characterful wines from this region. So I'm familiar with these smells. This smells gorgeous, I've got to say. It smells slightly, it's very rich. It smells slightly resinous-y. It smells like baked pear tart a little bit. There's kind of pear there. and a little bit of earthiness. There's a wonderful kind of, almost kind of cinnamon bark drag underneath it. Bit of allspice maybe. It's got quite a lot of colour, the wine. I imagine that's from the varieties chosen here. Remember, we're talking about Claret, Roussanne and Roll, which are all textural varieties, so shape is important here. So let's see what it feels like in the mouth. Very dry, but has wonderful mid-palate sweetness. So it's lovely, sweet, gobful of wine. It's intense, it's very concentrated. It's got lovely acidity, but it has extract as well, bolstering that acidity. It's not high acid, it's typically relatively low acid for this region. But that's really nice wine. Does it taste like it's over 20 quid's worth? Ladies and gentlemen, I can safely say it does. So this wine, which is the white wine, is called Gita, and it has like a medallion, a sketch made by Ridley Scott himself of one of the emperors who shared power after their parent died in, was it Commodus, in 293 AD or something. And the movie's about the power struggle between Caracalla and Gita. So the white wine is named after Gita, and the red wine is named after Caracalla, and there's a little design by Ridley Scott of both emperors on the bottles, which is rather nice, I think. So the whole point about this exercise was these wines were actually brought out, these particular special editions brought out to promote and to be in line with Gladiator 2. And I thought, oh, what a sellout. I hope these wines don't taste horribly inexpensive. And I can confirm they don't. Well, certainly the white wine anyway. I think that's delicious. I'm cooking a hot smoked salmon with dill and lemon cream tagliatelle later. That would go, wouldn't it? I think that would go. Right, let's move on to the red. It's delicious. Aftertaste is great. Well done, guys. Well done, Ridley and winemaker, man, woman, whoever you are. So, 2021. This wine's got 3 years of age on it. Natural cork. I'm sorry about giving you shade about the plastic cork, but Stelvin, yes. Diam natural closure, yes. Plastic corks, I suppose. He's a big estate. He's like got 80 or 100 acres of vineyard or something. He can afford a screw mouth filler at his bottling line, but I imagine he's using plastic corks because he can put down the same bottling line. That's fair enough. Okay, let's have a look at this. In my red wine stemless Grand Cru glass. Oh, I say. First thing it smells like, it smells buttery. Buttery biscuit base. So, it smells buttery like if you made a syrup. Let's say you cooked brambles and summer fruits in a pan with some sugar, and you monte au beurre, put some butter in it, and just bring it through like a buttery fruit filling. It smells like that. So brioche and baked strawberries. Strawberries, definitely strawberries. It's got a nice colour. It's not over-extracted. The fact that it says Syrah Grenache implies there's more Syrah, or at least as much Syrah as Grenache. Let's call it 50-50. Judging by the colour, I don't think that's far off. Maybe like 60-40. It's 14% alcohol, which is typical of the region. Really attractive, very fruity wine. It smells very together and ready to go, but I think it has time to go. I think this wine is still quite unevolved. It's uncomplex. The white wine for £22 or whatever it is exciting me slightly more, I have to be honest with you, at the moment. There you go. In the palate, it's much more interesting. It's got a lovely dried herb fruit, which is everything I was imagining it was going to taste like. A taste of dried thyme, definitely. Oregano, some marjoram, oregano, that kind of thing. Really Mediterranean. The smell of the breeze coming down from the Alps. Very, very nice wine. What would I score that? I don't know. But these are both wines which are definitely premium. I mean, you're paying money. I think the average price for a bottle of Coca Luberon would probably be a good 7 or 8 quid cheaper than this. This was the point. But then again, for £14 or £15, by the time they get here with the new taxation and everything in February, I think we're probably still looking at 16 or 17 quid. So you're only adding a few extra pounds. And there is a lovely kind of historical fact to this. And if you're a movie goer, then wonderful to have some kind of historical point in time to celebrate Gladiator 2, which I've yet to see. Anyway, there we go. Ridley Scott's wines, Masters Infirmière. If you're happy to pay £21 to impress someone or to have a fun story like this, then I suggest you go and do it, because these wines are both delicious, I have to say. There you go. Thanks very much. See you next time.